This is a video called South Korea is a Cyberpunk Dystopia, which I'm so fascinated by, but it's even more fascinating is that it's by a channel that it's the first video. They've never posted another video on here. Literally have 1.6 million views on this thing. So let's check it out.
For the longest time, I've always found it odd how the cyberpunk genre seemed to have a strange obsession with Japan. All across these movies, you'll find Japanese text, culture, and characters. But this actually makes sense. These movies date back to the 1980s, a time period where the rise and growth of Japan was crazy.
I mean, they're also, Asian countries like this are very, they have an air of being technologically advanced.
In a 40-year time span, Japan had gone from a small agricultural country to becoming the world's third largest economy.
Insane! Insane! China, right? That's insane. They passed China?
Japan was beating the US in tech, cars, and even video games.
It is wild to think about a time where Japan was a larger economy than China. Like, mathematically, it makes no sense, right? Because of the population.
The Japanese bubble burst, and Japan stagnated.
Rip.
And yet, you still continue to see Japanese influence in cyberpunk. But there's a country which I think fits the cyberpunk motif even better.
South Korea!
It's always been a staple of cyberpunk media to feature massive, domineering corporations.
I mean, South Korea literally has, I think it's 3 corporations that they plan their economy around 3 gigantic corporations that cover each of the different industries. So these are massive corporations that are owned and run by the government, that are controlled by an individual or family. It's like an oligarch, basically. But the big ones are Samsung, Hyundai, and like this guy who controls Kia and, I guess this is the president. But whatever, my point stands. Samsung, Kia, Hyundai, all those things, they're chaebols, and they are just government-run massive corporations that set up the foundation for this cyberpunk dystopia.
Blade Runner has the Tyrell Corporation, Ready Player One has IOI, and Korea has Samsung. It's hard to overstate the impact that Samsung has on Korean society. Many think of Samsung as simply a technology company, but it is actually an incredibly diverse mega corporation. The Samsung Group has over 80 subsidiaries, the largest being Samsung Electronics, which makes everything
that's
you
not
think
that
of
crazy to have that many, but
there are of course a number of others, such as Samsung SDI, which is an energy company.
Okay, energy is
Samsung
huge.
SDS, which offers IT and consulting services.
Okay.
Samsung CNT,
Human capital.
which is a construction company.
Construction.
Samsung
Okay.
Sports, which owns a variety of sports teams.
All right.
Samsung Fire and Marine Insurance, which
Insurance, of course.
offers fire and marine insurance. Samsung Heavy Industries, which is
Oh,
the world's
and
second-largest
logistics.
shipbuilder. And Samsung Life Insurance, which is not shady whatsoever.
Another life
These
insurance.
subsidiaries of the Samsung Group make up roughly 20% of the Korean economy, which is absolutely absurd. This level
That
of
is
dominance over the
absurd.
country lacks any real comparison.
so
It
much.
should come as no surprise that Samsung is also Korea's
Of a first world
largest
country.
employer, employing 100,000 people across the country. Even the United States' largest employer, Walmart, makes up only 2.5% of the economy.
Wait, that's insane. I feel like Amazon makes up more percentage of the economy these days.
The level of control Samsung has over Korea is insane. Just looking at it at a cultural level, if you were to ask a Korean primary schooler what they wanted to do when they grew up, more often than not,
This
they'd say
dubstep is
work at
a bit
Samsung.
much.
Kids in Korea have it drilled into their brains that getting a job at Samsung is their key to a better and more prestigious life. This
I
isn't
love this edit. I can see myself making this edit. Drill, brain, Samsung, key.
an easy task, however. Children, even from an incredibly early age,
is fire.
know that if they want to work at Samsung, they'll have to do it very well in school and get into a prestigious university. Korean society places an incredible significance on education. School days are 11 hours of lecture-based instruction in a variety of subjects. And starting in middle school, more than 95% of students will begin to attend privately owned, for-profit cram schools after they finish their regular school day.
Wait, for-profit? Wait, they have for-profit after-school schools? That's terrible.
Students may spend as much as 16 hours studying in
Oh!
a day, only coming home to sleep. There's a common saying in Korea that if you sleep 3 hours each night, you may get into a top university. If you sleep 4 hours each night, you may get into another university.
Oh.
But if you sleep 5 hours or more each night, especially during your last year of high school, forget about getting into any university.
Oh my god.
Even more so than other countries, getting into a top university in Korea is a big deal.
I've heard
And
about
the only
this.
way to do that is by scoring highly on the Suning or CSAT exam. The Suning exam is a 9-hour-long, all-encompassing exam and is offered only once a year. During these 9 hours, the country holds its breath, Teachers wear trainers to muffle their footsteps as they pace their classrooms. Roads around schools are shut down.
You imagine the pressure that this puts on a kid? Oh my God. There are probably kids just sweating, cracking. Not me though.
To prevent traffic for students arriving at test sites. Even planes are grounded all across the country.
What?
So the sound of them taking off is not a distraction.
For silence? All right, these kids need to learn to work through the distractions.
The pressure is immense. Students study Korean, English, mathematics, and history, knowing that if they aren't happy with their result, they'll have to endure another year of grueling studying.
Why is it? What happened to the audio?
For those who did poorly, well, they'll make up the 20% of students who will take it in a year. And for those who did well, their parents may reward them with plastic surgery.
Oh.
After all, a more attractive face will give them a leg up in the job market.
Oh my God, what? This is crazy.
This may seem insane for people in the West, but yes, this is true, and it's almost a cliche at this point. Of course, there are others who may never be able to find success with tuning, and will be forced to look for a different path. Some may abandon their dreams and work in manufacturing, while others may try to become professional gamers, spending all their free time.
Grind. Look at these dunks. They're squatted up with the team shoes. You kidding me?
Some may even try to become K-pop idols. But even in the entertainment industry, there still exists this extreme work culture.
These guys are all plastic surgeryed up, huh?
When someone auditions to become a K-pop idol, they sign what's called a slave contract, where they agree to let a management company control every facet of their lives for years. It often takes years of incredibly intense training for a K-pop group to debut, and in that time, trainees are constantly monitored, having to follow an extremely strict diet, and are not allowed to be in a relationship.
Did you see this? Hey, I'm not even pushing. Why are you crying? I've also heard that these contracts are just like financially, they just rob you straight up.
Trainees live together in dorms so they can be better monitored, and aren't even allowed to leave without permission. Even after years of intense training, the management company could drop the trainee with no financial compensation.
And they just run your life, and then they take all the IP away from you, and they just make all the money. Oh, this is terrible.
This extreme work culture, which propelled Korea onto the world stage as a major economy, is also slowly destroying it. Extreme overworking has caused a mental health epidemic, giving South Korea the highest suicide rate of any developed country in the world.
That's horrible. Sri Lanka? That's interesting. I'm surprised the U.S. isn't even on here.
Since the 1980s, Korean population growth has fallen below replacement levels. As of 2020, the Korean fertility rate was at 0.84 births per woman, which not only puts them far...
What in the world? Why did the music just come back in like that? I mean, all developed nations are pretty low on this fertility rate.
Replacement level, but also is the lowest in the world.
I didn't realize it was the lowest, though. That's insane.
Already in decline, and will continue to far into the future.
Korea's just Japan on steroids, huh?
This is only exacerbated by the country's compulsory military conscription, which forces all men in the country to serve in the army for at least 2 years. Well, all men in theory at least. Of course, like any other country, Korea has exceptions to its conscription.
Of course.
And those who are unfit to serve don't. And who decides who is fit to serve? Military brokers. In August of 2022, after serving 18 months in jail, Samsung Vice Chairman Lee Jae-yong was officially pardoned for his heavy involvement in a bribery scheme.
He was the fall guy. Everybody, if you've seen Succession, you know everybody was in on it. He was just the guy who had to take the L.
Previous Korean President Park Geun-hye, where Lee Jae-yong would offer over $38 million in bribes. Yoon Suk-yeol, one of Park's successors after she was sent to jail, would then go on to pardon Jae-yong, citing his importance to Samsung, and by extension, the larger Korean economy. Korea is not new to corruption. In fact, a very similar scandal happened years ago with Lee Jae-yong's father, Lee Kun-hye, who, along with his many scandals, is credited for the transformation of Samsung into one of the world's largest businesses. It seems that anyone connected to these hyper-rich families can get away with anything.
Sounds a lot like everywhere else in the world.
In fact, Korea has a word for these families. Chaebol.
That's
At the
the
start of this
chaebol.
video, I may have lied a bit. Korea doesn't just have Samsung as its corporate overlord. It also has 3 others: SK, Hyundai, and LG.
SK was the one I couldn't think of, and I didn't realize LG was that one, or was also a chaebol. They seem in direct competition, right?
Make up the majority of the Korean economy and account for half of all exports.
Woo!
Work at these companies is so in demand that in addition to demanding degrees from highly prestigious universities, they also have their own standardized entrance exams to recruit
Oh,
workers,
I've heard about
of
that.
which hundreds of thousands of people take
insane.
annually.
Hundreds of thousands of people are vying for terrible entry-level positions at these places, so much so that they'll take entrance exams, work themselves to death just to get in at the bottom. Oh.
The families that control these chaebol are near untouchable, and they are so spoiled that they'll rent an entire passenger plane just because you serve them their macadamia nuts in a bag rather than on a plate. The Korean government is a hostage to these companies. If any one of them were to fall, it's possible the entire Korean economy may collapse. The Korean government has little choice but to let these companies do as they please.
Subscribe.